evening slate. It's it's tiny slate, so the name of the game is Get Different. This
I
go ahead, Chiefs.
I would love to hear how you're going to get different. So I'm like looking at this slate here.
Yep.
And we can go game by game, and I'd love to see how you're going to get different. Because I'm going to play because it's open, so I'm going to play. So we got to figure this out because we'll get to it. Hold on, let's see. All right.
Well, we've got a problem too. There's 2 of the 4 games have pretty serious weather concerns.
Let's see what that's like. Let's see what the
Roth has got the orange, yellow, and yellow, orange.
Orange, yellow, and yellow, orange.
Yep.
Yep, it sure does. And the orange, yellow is the Philly game.
Yep.
And the yellow, orange is the Boston game. So top pitcher and top hitters are both in jeopardy. Excellent.
Yeah, I know.
Well, so let's talk about St. Louis, Tampa, I guess.
Well, let's go through the Philly one real quick and see if we can, what we would do. We obviously don't know what's going to happen with the weather yet. Look, I do think that I do like Philly here quite a bit, and I also think Nola is obviously like probably the easiest, best. Well, I don't know about the best, but I definitely probably the strongest, just raw points guy on the slate. And I wouldn't get to any Corbin, and I don't currently have wouldn't have any plans to get to Washington, but obviously I do like Philly. It's just a matter of them being popular and obviously the weather concerns. So what are your thoughts here, Sheets?
Well, we could turn this into literally a 3-minute breakdown of this whole slate. So how do you not play Nova Paxton? Let's start with that.
Well, I actually would rather go game by game if you don't mind.
All right. Well, okay. That's why I said St. Louis, Tampa, because they had them first on my list.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just went through this.
All right. So Washington, Philly. Okay, I have Philly as one of the top 2 or 3 stacks to play. I have Boston as probably the most popular, so I would probably go Philly over them. And I have Nola as my top overall pitcher. I'm not getting to any of Corbin, nor would I be getting to any of Washington.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Since I messed up and I went. I don't understand why we can't get this streamlined on Saber. I'm going to talk to the Sabersim guys because it's so weird. All right. Well, in Tampa Bay, why don't you start off the Tampa Bay one?
All right. I'm not going to get to. I imagine either of the pitchers. As long as I can get to the hitting I need. So again, I haven't built yet. So I might end up having to play Liberatore to get to the hitting I need. I want to get your opinion, I guess, on Littell. But I think, like I said, depending on what you want to do, like I put Nolan Paxton here, whatever, if you can make the rest of it work. But if not, I think Liberatore is kind of an obvious option.
I think the one who will be played is not. I don't think people are going to be excited to play Liberatore. He's had negative points in most of his starts this year, and has only put up like 10 or more once maybe, and it's not a great matchup. So I think Zach Little would be the more obvious play.
Okay.
And I'm not like overly excited about either of it, but we should consider a lot of different things on this size of slate.
Sure.
So maybe the fact that these teams are both going to be low owned offensively, and people aren't overly interested in the Liberatore play. It doesn't seem like early on as a pitcher. I do think Zach Little will get a little bit of ownership, but because these teams are low owned, I'm going to have to put them near the top of my list to at least get pieces of, because I think they're going to be the lower owned of all the stacks that we look at today. Maybe not all the stacks. I mean, all the stacks that I see as viable, other than Colorado and Washington.
Yeah, I have Tampa rated like 3rd or 4th. I don't mind Tampa here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting to St. Louis, but I'm definitely getting to some Tampa.
Yeah, and I do think, just for what it's worth, the St. Louis is going to be the very low-owned side. And I agree that I would prefer to get to Tampa, but I think St. Louis is where you can get different on this slate. And there's still good hitters in that lineup, you know what I mean? And I do think that maybe getting to some Arenado and Goldschmidt at like no ownership is probably not a bad idea. That's probably something that I would try to force in my hand build. I haven't done it yet, but I do think that's a really viable option. versus playing, this mega chalk we're going to see in these other games, like the next one coming up. All right, Cheat, start us off with the Boston game here.
Yeah, Boston rates #1 as far as raw points and value, and but that's been something we've said the last couple of days, and they have not delivered. And they're going to be even more popular today, and I'll probably fade them. That's the way it's going to be.
It gets worse too because you have a lefty opener, so knowing their lineup is anyone's guess. But if you play the guy like the Ref Schneider or something, you might get one at bat.
Yeah.
So same thing with Pablo Reyes, although he's been playing a little bit more now, and Connor Wong, Luis Arias, all those guys definitely have pinch hit risk. And I think Paxton is completely viable. But what about taking the other side of this and maybe playing some Royals as another? Again, my mind just goes strictly to trying to find a way to get different and who's not going to be owned. Hey, the Royals are playing in the same stadium. They're going to have some ownership, but again, they're still very cheap. I do like Paxton, but if you're not playing him, I think getting some Royals is certainly more than viable. So that would be my thing, is to try to fade the chalk in Boston and to play some Royals. And it makes it easier for me to fade the chalk, especially if Boston comes out with their right-handed heavy lineup and then they just platoon everybody. That's certainly something that's on the table. So, and it's not like the Royals will be unowned as like Tampa Bay will, but they're going to be one of the lower owned spots. So I would be trying to get whoever your primary stack is, whether it's Philly, Boston, LA, I would be trying to play them with St. Louis or KC at the very least, because I just would like to get a little bit of low ownership on a slate that's going to be really hard to do so.
Yeah, Casey, as usual, shows up as an okay value. I on this slate, I have no problem playing Paxton with Bobby Witt on the other side. Usually I don't do that with 4-game slates, but when the pitchers stand out so much, I don't mind doing that. So, Paxton shows up alongside of Nola as the best pitcher. And but again, you play both of them together, you don't get to play the Phillies you want, you don't get to play the Dodgers you want, which we'll get to in a second. So now I'm back to taking a shot at one of those Tampa St. Louis dudes, as far as the pitchers go. But I think that even though it's 4 games, I think you could play, if you do, especially if you play Paxton and Nola together or something like that, you could maybe take someone from the other team. Like you could play CJ Abrams maybe from Washington. I think that on this slate you can get away with that.
Yeah. So I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, moving on to the Dodgers. So the issue is how many pitches are they going to let Kershaw throw? The actual best pitcher on the slate. That's really the name of the game. But even in limit, they'll let him probably go 75 is my guess, but probably not much more. And he's going to be like 50% owned. It's kind of tough, man, at 10-2. So I think I probably leave Kershaw out because I just don't see him. Maybe he goes 80 pitches. I'm sure that he's ready to go, but they just have no reason whatsoever to mess around with this. Kershaw obviously is having a tremendous season, but hasn't pitched in a couple months. And I think that they're going to be careful with him. So that's my first thought, is to try probably to go for one of the other pitchers other than Kershaw. Yeah. And then the Dodgers, I like a lot, but again, you're going to have to deal with some ownership. I actually think I prefer the Dodgers to Boston and Philly. So I would rather play them, and they're going to be slightly lower owned, I believe, than Boston at least. Could you take some bats on the Colorado side? Sure. Who those bats would be is like literally tell me who you guys would like to play, because I can't find anybody who actually makes on paper sense. I guess Elias Diaz or Jurickson Profar would probably be my favorites. Maybe Ryan McMahon in a lefty-lefty matchup, but it's really hard to get to Colorado. So yeah, I'm just having trouble getting there. What are you doing with this one, Sheets?
I don't know much about baseball managing and stuff, but I can't imagine Kershaw getting even near 75 pitches today. But maybe you're right. I don't know. There's no need, and it's not like it was a foot injury. It was a freaking shoulder injury, right? I mean, so I'm not playing that at 10-2. It's just not happening. I definitely want to play the Dodgers, and I you know what I got a good mind to do? I just got a good mind to play both pitchers from St. Louis, Tampa, and stack the Dodgers and pray for rain in the other 2 games. You know what I mean? Like that'd be pretty freaking cool if you get away with it, right? It's like you double pay down for a pitcher in the St. Louis Tampa game, play all the Dodgers that you want, full fade those other 2 games, and then if they both rain out, you're a genius. And you might win anyway. So that's something. Let me ask you, only because again, you gotta think of everybody. Block at 5,500.
Like on this slate, maybe.
Yeah, right.
That's like one thing you could do, like to get a little different. He did throw 80 pitches his last outing. I guess that's something to look at. It wouldn't surprise me if he only threw a few innings, but it's something to consider. Like it's just one of those slates. I don't agree within the chat. They're saying that the Dodgers. I don't think the Dodgers are going to be low owned. They're expensive, and I completely disagree with it. They haven't been great lately. I mean, I'm kind of confused by that one. They've scored, I believe, the most runs over the past 2 weeks. They scored the most runs of any team. I think they've scored the most runs. They've had 3 out of their last 6 games. They've scored 10 or more runs. 8 in 2 others, and then they're averaging over 7 runs a game for I think the last 2 or 3 weeks. And it's a premium matchup. So I definitely don't agree that the Dodgers will be low owned or that they haven't been great lately.
Who are your favorite Dodgers tonight?
It'd be Mookie, and Will Smith is probably just because of the position. I always like playing Freeman in the lefty because it makes no difference for him at all. So, but I also like the idea of like maybe having a chalky stack and then trying to get to some Goldschmidt and Arenado because they're going to be super low owned, and I can use those guys at the corners. I just can't spend up for the Dodgers then. So I'd end up playing like maybe Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, Ahmed Rosario, who all carry obviously certain pinch hit risks. Rosario, the least of which, though.
Rosario's the least risky.
Yeah, but it's really depends on it's. I always feel nervous saying that because it really just depends on when it comes up in the order at a certain point. You know what I mean? But you're hoping it doesn't even come into play because they're already up by 7 runs or something.
Well, the point is that I also put 6 Dodgers in. Obviously, you can't put 6, but if you did want to do something funny here, and not play either of the top pitchers, because remember, Nola's like great pitcher and all that stuff. But remember, Washington is not, they don't give up that many strikeouts.
Yeah.
And what if he gets 18 or something like that?
Right. Absolutely. Like I think that, I think you do want to get a little bit of, and by the way, I'm getting sort of conflicting things. They're saying now Dakota Hudson. I'm looking at Liberatore is, as of right now, the starter for St. Louis, but don't be surprised if that changes, I guess is all I'd say.
Hudson's not much more expensive though.
Yeah, and Hudson actually might be a better play. I actually think Hudson would end up being pretty popular if he does play. What is happening? Something's up with the projections. I've got to figure this out. I think it actually is going to be Liberatore. I'm just trying to understand these projections because they're a little bit goofy depending on the site. So I guess that like for me, Nola and then either Paxton are the most, probably Paxton are the most obvious ones.
Right.
But I think that getting some little, although he's going to have some ownership, getting some Liberatore, and honestly, probably even some Ty Block is not a bad idea. You can also use the weather to justify maybe getting off that Philly game. Maybe something happens and they aren't able to play it. It's not like it's a day game. And that is the game with the most risk. Obviously, Washington, it's not in Washington, which is not, but Philly is the second worst in terms of weird cancellations. So just keep it in mind. It could be a very weird little slate. And that the thing I would do for hitting is just, I would try to force some St. Louis into your lineups. I would try to, if you're pitching little, I would try to force some Tampa Bay into your lineups, and I would try to force some Kansas City into your lineups. That would be my way of getting a little bit different and try to be lower on Boston, Philadelphia, higher on the Dodgers.
If you play Nola and Paxton together, like how do you even play? I mean, like
it's really easy. I think that you're overrating the prices of the players because there's just so much value every day now.
Okay.
So I don't think you have to worry too much. I mean, you've got it's like throughout the things, that guy Curtis Mead is supposed to play, for Tampa Bay, 220, 100. You've got actually it's not as good as stuff. It's not as good today, but we'll see how the lines react. But Olivares is supposed to be batting cleanup. He's 2,500. Some pinch hit risk, but still. There's just a lot of guys in the 2K range that you can sort of use to fill it out. But I guess you're right, though. It is a little bit harder than usual to build a full, stack that you might want.
And who do you want to play? Colorado guys? I mean, like.
No, I'd be open to playing one Colorado guy. I don't think I'd want to try and like target them as a stack. But I think you could play one or two. No problem with that. Probably McMahon, or assuming that he's still in his usual batting position because it's a lefty-lefty matchup. Yeah. Probably McMahon or Diaz would be my favorites, and Profar would be the next one for me. I'm going to take a quick look and just see, because Kershaw has a ton of experience against these guys. See if there's anything we can see from a BVP perspective that makes any sense here. I'm pretty sure I remember Profar. Is it just my memory that I've had Profar's had a good career against him? Let's see. Okay. Kershaw, why doesn't it have BVP? That's really weird. I don't have my Kershaw BVP pulled up for some reason. It's not giving me that as an option. That's very strange. Well, I'll figure that out. I don't think it's anything too profound there. And even Profar, most of the time he hit off of him, it was in Colorado, so it's not that exciting. So not a great slate. I'll try to join you at 6 Eastern, Sheets, but
I'll be there one way or the other.
Not 100% sure. And if we do, it's probably going to be a very quick show. Not a whole lot to go over. Maybe just process.
Well, yeah, I'll do my build. That always takes like a full half an hour or so.
Yeah. Nice. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. And I guys, as you know, I'm sort of in and out the next couple of weeks. But we'll have somebody for you, whether it's me, Sheets, Rody, covering the live stuff, especially. And Goldie's always doing his early videos as well. So keep an eye out for that. Sheets, anything else for you here?
Nope. Sounds good.
All right. I'll post my early builds, guys, in the Discord.